It's been a little while since I did a good rant video, but you're getting one today. I'm fired up, I'm upset, and I'm gonna tell you what I think. So I hope you all are having a great day, and I hope I don't ruin your day with any negativity, but sometimes you just gotta say what's on your mind. And what I want to say today is that all of us have to be careful where we get our information. And we have to be open-minded to consider things that we may not initially believe. I've heard it said that the sign of intelligence is the ability to truly consider a new idea without accepting it. So if I believe something to be true and someone tells me something that contradicts that, the immediate response is to feel like that's an attack on me and to fight back. But what makes more sense is to stop and say, wait, what is this new information? Maybe I've been wrong. Let me think about it. Consider the information, truly consider it, and then make a decision. If you're not willing to change your mind about something, then I guess it's game over. Just, you already know it all. None of us know it all. But there are some things that I think are put out as if they are facts that I just don't believe to be true. And I'm going to touch on a bunch of subjects, but I guess first thing I want to say is where this came from today, why I'm having this conversation. And you guys, most of you who are watching have probably seen my other videos. You know that primarily what I do on this channel is review equipment, work outside, do projects. The channel's called Farm, but it's about working on stuff. And occasionally, I'll do videos like this that are off topic. Well, I kind of made the decision that posting those off-topic videos wasn't good for my channel, so I started a second channel that's just under my name. The channel's called Brock Maggard. And on that channel, I'm going to post things that are off-topic. And I did that today. Today, I posted a video about my father, who is, I think he 67 years old. And he's recently, a couple years ago, had open heart surgery. And they put him on a bunch of medication, and that medication was not working. And, you know, the doctors are doing the best they can do with the situation. And we made a video talking about what he had gone through over the last few years and what he's doing about it. I'm doing the low-carb diet. It's had tremendous effects on my health, and it's doing more for him than the medication. And I decided I wanted to share that story because I think it's important information. And mainly we're sharing our experience, not necessarily giving you advice about what you should do. And I posted that on my off-topic channel. And I immediately got some responses that really triggered me. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm arguing with someone in the comments, and I think to myself, you know, I shouldn't be having this argument. I can't change somebody's mind. I might as well be talking to someone of the opposite political party and trying to convince them. You can't. It's not going to happen. So I said, it doesn't make sense to have this argument. But I started thinking about how this argument reflects on all of these other things like politics or religion or anything else you might want to talk about. And that's where I came to the idea that I wanted to have this conversation about where we get our information. And let's do an example right now. If you watch political commentary, you're going to hear inflation. I'm waiting. I thought there was going to be a debate between, but it hasn't happened yet. If that debate happens, you're going to hear a conversation about inflation and say, oh, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. There's going to be this argument. And I think most of you guys know where I stand on it, but I don't want to do that today. That's not what this is about. What I'm talking about is they're going to give you inflation numbers. Inflation is this percent and this percent. It's all BS. If you go to the grocery store, you know what inflation is, and it's crazy. It's out of control, and it's nothing I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure historically these things have happened before in the 1970s or the 1930s or whatever the case may be. I'm no historian. But this inflation right now is crazy. It's out of control. Some things, they might tell you, oh, inflation is, I think I heard one little soundbite that was put out that said inflation was 1% or 3% or inflation had stopped or some crazy thing. There are a lot of things in the grocery store that have doubled in price in the last 4 years. Double. It's crazy. So you can smell BS when you hear it. And all of the political talk is about 50% BS. I believe in this, and I believe in this, and I believe in this, and I think one candidate is better than the other one, and I think it's a wide discrepancy. Those are my opinions, but we can all listen to those people, and we can smell BS when they're saying it. And there's a lot of lying done on those stages. But this video isn't about politics. I want to move it on to the next topic, which is our food system, our health care, and the advice we're given by our doctors. I want to say first, doctors are just exactly like everyone else. They were not born doctors. They were not preordained with ultimate, unending knowledge and the answers to all of life's questions. They're regular people. They sat next to you in junior high, and within a group of people, like doctors, you have the exact same character traits that you have in any other group of people. So, mostly, doctors are good people doing the best they can, but you know what? Their lives are hard too. They're dealing with the same problems you are, and they're limited by their time and the amount of things they can do. They're just people. And you know, a doctor goes to medical school, they have 168 credit hours to become a medical doctor. 1/2 of one semester is spent on nutrition. And then they have to go out into the world and face people who have all kinds of problems, and they're just a human being. And there's a lot of these problems that are complicated, and we don't have all the answers. And they can't control your behavior. So if you went to your doctor and you say, you know, I've gained some weight and I'm not feeling very good, and they check and they say, hey, your blood sugar's really high. You're now type 2 diabetic. If you hired that doctor with your own money and you said, I'm so rich, I'm going to hire you to do nothing but care for me, and you choose a great doctor, they're going to give you a healthy eating plan, and they're going to walk you through all the best practices you can do. But if your doctor is required by the company he works for, the medical institution, to try to see a certain number of patients per day, and they can just barely get through, and he can't control your behavior, and he knows that most people don't take the advice that's given, about all they can do is give you some medicine. They can give you some general advice, but the doctors are doing the best they can. But the system that we have in place is broken, and people right now are having more chronic disease. We have all this technology and all this information and all these advances in science, and today people are sicker than they've ever been. There is more chronic disease than there has ever been. Type 2 diabetes used to be a disease of the elderly. There's a very small percentage of people who are born with type 1 diabetes, and they're a whole other conversation. But type 2 diabetes is 100% controllable through your behavior. And we have a lot of sick people who can't even afford their health care, can't afford good health care, and are being given bad advice. And it becomes very personal when it's in your family. And my mother's diabetic, my father had heart surgery, and neither one of them were that old when it happened. And then I go in, and I'm 20-some years younger than them, and now I have high blood sugar, and I have high blood pressure, and I'm just doing the standard American diet. And it becomes very personal at that point to say, I want to find something that's going to improve the quality of life for me and for my parents, and I want to learn what I can learn because I'm getting a chronic disease that I'll have the rest of my life that my parents already have. And I don't want to live like that. But people 30 and 40 years ago, what I'm getting and what my parents have was really rare. Everyone was not walking around in the 1950s with type 2 diabetes. They just weren't. Since processed grains and concentrated vegetable oils became mainstays of the human diet, and high fructose corn syrup and preservatives and all of these things that are done to maximize profits and keep food shelf stable. Since those things have been introduced into our food system, starting, close to 100 years ago and progressively increasing, since those things have happened, people have been getting more and more chronic diseases at younger and younger ages. And I get really fired up talking about it because it becomes personal when it's your family. When someone that you care about is sick, it becomes personal. So, what point am I making here? What I'm saying is that we all are responsible because you only get, one trip around this globe. You only get one life to live here. You have to make choices for yourself and not necessarily just do what conventional wisdom says. So we post a video that's 30 minutes long. Me and my dad sitting in chairs right here telling his story. Hey, what have you been doing? What happened after you changed the way you eat? We talked about his blood sugar and his blood pressure. He's being seen by the doctor. And simple dietary changes are having more effect than all the medication that he's being given, which has side effects. And, these changes are hard to make. I don't want to make light of that. But making those changes is having more effect for him than taking the medication from the doctors. Or even taking standard accepted nutritional advice. So we post that video this morning, and the comments I got is, you're promoting a fad diet that, is going to cause you more health problems. And then the person comments and they leave me an article to a study, some doctor saying that this was a fad diet. And this is my topic. It's important where we get our information. So, let's say I'm a medical researcher and I hear about the diet that I'm talking about, a low-carb diet. And I say, man, that sounds like, anecdotally, I'm hearing about guys whose dads have lowered their blood pressure. I'm hearing about guys who've lowered their blood pressure by doing this diet. I want to do the real research to prove if this is safe and healthy and effective. Well, how do I do that? Unless I'm a billionaire who just likes to do research, more than likely, I need a lot of money to fund my study. Where does that money come from? 99% of all medical research is funded by the companies that make the drugs and the companies that make the foods that are keeping us sick. Now, I don't believe the people in those companies are bad people. I believe they're just like doctors. They're all doing the best they can. Their job is to sell cereal. And to sell cereal, they're all doing their jobs that they're paid to do. But they pay for research that supports what they sell. I'm not trying to be some conspiracy theorist or say that everyone's out to get us, or it just is what it is. Part of it is kind of a necessity for the big picture of society. Food needs to be cheap and available. Making food cheap and available is going to create food that's not healthy. If you need to feed 1 billion people, then the best thing might be to process some grain out and bleach it and put preservatives in it, and it'll ship out and last a long time, and you can do it in mass production. But if the idea is for you to have healthy food, you should probably buy some land and buy some cows and let the cows eat the grass and then eat the cows. This is not rocket science. And so, if I'm that researcher and I want to find out, is the carnivore diet good for human health? Are there long-term side effects? Are you going to have some vitamin deficiencies? Who pays for that study? Nobody. You going to pay for the study? I can't pay for the study. The researcher can't pay for the study. There's no product for sale. Because the diet that I'm on uses no supplements and no medications. You don't have to buy anything. If doing this diet required you to buy a certain supplement, then the company who makes the supplement would pay for the research saying that you need the supplement, because it's their job as a company who sells supplements to put out research showing that those supplements work. And I don't know if you know this, but if I pay for 100 studies and 97 of them don't prove what I want, did you know that I don't publish those studies? I don't have to. I get the results back, I look at them, I say, these 3 studies look pretty good. We're going to show those. That's how it really works. So am I saying that we're just supposed to disregard everything that the medical community tells us? Absolutely not. In the video, I said, my preference, what I would do if I was my father, is start weaning off of the blood pressure medicine and see if he can maintain his blood pressure through diet by checking it every day and weaning off the medicine after consulting his doctor about it. And have someone monitoring you to help you be safe if you're in that situation. What I'm saying is, if this matters to you, if any of it matters to you, put in the time and do your own research. And when you find conflicting information, you've got to trust what makes sense to you. Last thing I want to say about this diet, if you want to research it, you can go online and watch thousands of hours of medical doctors citing research and explaining why this is safe and effective, and explaining how they've been doing it with their patients for decades, and it's been saving lives for real people. And there's a medical doctor, his name's Philip Avadia. Dr. Philip Avadia wrote a book called Stay Off My Operating Table. The premise here is he's been a heart surgeon for the last 30 years, cutting people open and fixing all of these heart problems, and looking at it and seeing all these hearts and realizing that the patients were getting younger and younger and younger, and their problems were getting worse and worse and worse. And said, we've got to do something about this. So he dedicates his life to finding out the truth. And I think that guy is a better source of information than your local doctor who treats everything all the time and can't specialize and focus on one type of nutritional plan. Your local doctor is not the beginning and the end of nutritional advice. And because he's in person doesn't make him more credible than the doctors online. So I just spent a bunch of time talking about what I've decided is the healthiest way for a human to eat. And it's based on the idea that throughout most of human history, people did not have access to food, and they had to eat whatever they could get their hands on. And that was very rarely grains. It definitely was not processed grains. It wasn't bread. fruits and vegetables were only in season at certain times. For long periods of time, people would either be fasting because they didn't have a choice or eating whatever animal they could kill. And that's the reality. That's what most of humanity did, and they didn't have diabetes, and they didn't get heart disease the way we do. Now, I don't just want to focus on it. I was using that as an example that for me and for my life, I'm putting my health in the hands of what I believe to be true. And it's the same with everything else. I mentioned politics, and you can't just turn on one news network and believe what they have to say, because their money comes from somewhere and they have an agenda. And there's truth in what both sides say, but you can't just take it as if it's all true. You got to step back and ask yourself, are these things really true? And it goes to everything. So I tried to keep this type of content off of this channel, but when I get fired up, I just say what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there's a lot of BS out there, and we all have to do our best to sort through it. Appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.